Thank you for that update, Rich. And we're just about ready to head down to the feature match area, but not quite there. Players are still getting shuffled up, mulligans resolved, that kind of thing. So I wanted to take a quick minute here. Randy, set the stage for us about the match that we're about to see.
Team USA.
Yes.
Slovak Republic.
Right.
These are the two best teams in what is, in my opinion, the toughest pod we've got going. So this is the showdown for stage 2. Both teams won their first round. So the Slovaks can actually clinch Sunday with a win. They're a 2 seed, so if they win this, they're 2-0. At 2-1, they guaranteed they're in because their tiebreakers are good enough. 2 teams can't get ahead of them. Team USA, meanwhile, they can't clinch with a win, but they're in great shape with a win. The thing that's got me nervous for the Americans is Owen saying they have terrible matchups against the Russians, who we know they have to play in the last round. So this is kind of must win.
All right, well, let's find out right now. It's time for United States versus the Slovak Republic. Hello and welcome to coverage of the World Magic Cup. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Buehler and Ben Stark. We've got a massive, massive battle on the horizon here. United States versus Slovak Republic, 2 of the most powerful, heralded teams in this tournament coming in. And it is at the latest stages. There's only this round and 1 round to go before we decide who makes the top 8. There's Neil Oliver. You just saw Ivan Floch. Randy, what do the decks look like here?
Kind of interesting. Both players chose to play the Jeskai Tokens deck that Yuya Watanabe unleashed on the world in the World Championships and will be playing tomorrow. Both teams also chose to play a black-green Constellation deck. The only difference in the deck setups is that the Americans have a blue-white heroic, kind of Tom Ross-style heroic deck, whereas the Slovaks have gone totally the other side of the spectrum, blue-black Control, Pearl Lake, Ancient, Perilous Vault, etc. I mean, if you got Ivan Floch, I guess that's what you do with him, right?
And that's who we're watching right now. You take a look at the Slovak Republic's team stats on the right side of your screen, and you'll notice Matej Zadelkai, Ivan Floch, 2 Pro Tour top 8 competitors. That is Neil Oliver on the right side. He's a Grand Prix winner, 2-time Grand Prix finalist besides that as well. Of course, Owen Turtenwald is looming at one of the tables on the side here as well. So we have a real clash of the Titans as Ivan Floch is resolving a Thoughtseize here, Ben.
Yeah, and I'm betting Ivan Floch is pretty happy as he sees Neil's hand. Neil has 2 spells. One is a Treasure Cruise, which can't be cast anytime soon, and one is a Seeker, which is a good 2-drop, but not that powerful. You don't have spells to cast. So I mean,
and it's about to leave his hand.
Right. So with Ivan seeing these, being able to take either one depending on his hand. I mean, if he has a way to stop Cruise, I'm sure he'll take Seeker. If he has no ways to interact like with Cruise, like Disdainful Stroke or Thoughtseize or Dissolve, then he might take the Cruise. But either way, this is a really bad hand for Neil here, especially after being Thoughtseize.
Yeah, I can't Ivan just plan on finding a way to deal with Cruise by the time that happens? That's going to be, what, 5 turns from now?
Yeah, it's forever from now. But the thing is, it's not like you don't get draw steps. And, when you're in a good spot like this, you do want to plan for the game where Neil draws some spells,
Sure.
If Neil draws nothing, then, Ivan's going to win.
All right, so let's see. Well, Neil started off by drawing something, a replacement Seeker of the Way. Does it resolve? I see a Dissolve in hand for Ivan Floch, but he's also got a Hero's Downfall. He may even have a Bile Blight in hand. Yes, he does. So all types of answers. He decides to use the most mana-efficient route possible by firing off the Hero's Downfall there. Keeping the Bile Blight in hand also lets him use it on some type of tokens, right? Like a Hordling Outburst or something along those lines.
Right, and it looks like Neil is drawing spells. I think he has a Rabble Master.
You're correct, he does. And that, of course, is plan A for Neil Oliver here, as a very spell-light hand and had one of them stripped away with Thoughtseize. And Neil certainly has his work cut out for him here. Is this the Bile Blight or is this a Dissolve?
I'm not sure, but it looks like that Thoughtseize barely even affected Neil. He played turn 2 Seeker, turn 3 Rabble Master anyway.
It sure did. He's even got Evolving Wilds to power up his Treasure Cruise for next turn.
Yeah, the Dissolve is on cue, ready to nail the Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, you can see that Ivan Floch has made sure to keep that in his hand, preferring spot removal for the creature so he can counter The cruise later. There goes that Evolving Wilds for Neil Oliver. Now, also down in the feature match area, we've got Owen Turtenwald playing against Mikhail Gulon, and Jan Tomcani is playing against Andrew Beckstrom.
Which means, by the way, the Slovaks have continued their strategy of sitting out one of their best players to go into the coach role.
I cannot believe.
I know, me neither.
That Matej is not battling in this right now.
Matej Zadogai is not playing one of these decks. He is in the coach role. Now, we haven't seen him over Ivan Flock's shoulder. I don't think that's where he's going to be spending any attention, right? He's going to be helping out both Jan Tomcani and Mikhail Gulon.
I mean, clearly, you can go different ways with your strategy as far as how to approach this. I don't know what's best, but I do know Josh Utter-Layton chose to do the same thing and sit out when he was a captain of a relatively weak U.S. team. So, I mean, if you think that you have two maybe weaker players and that they need help, there could definitely be something to be said for sitting out one of your better players so that they can see which match looks close and go help that person and let the unclose match just, run its course.
How did Josh feel about that at the end of the event? Did he think it was the right call?
I don't really remember, but I know that, he obviously discussed it beforehand. I'm sure he got insight from Luis and, the rest of us. And, if he went with it, he's a pretty smart guy. So at least, I can't say that it's right or wrong, but at least there's some merit there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Treasure Cruise hits the stack, but not for long. Ivan Flock immediately snaps his Flooded Strand, and this thing is going to get dissolved right out of the game. There was no way he's going to let a Treasure Cruise resolve. So now a lot of pressure back on Neil Oliver's draw step turn after turn to keep finding spells. He's done a good job so far of doing that, but he needs to keep it up.
Yeah, he finally hit a land this turn. First one since that Thoughtseize.
Yeah, and this is one of the best Treasure Cruise decks in Standard I've seen, because with Jeskai Ascendancy, you have the ability to turn all of those cards you draw off it into spells, cycling through your lands.
Everybody's been trying to break Jeskai Ascendancy in a combo deck of some shell, and Yu is just like, no, I'll take those 8 combo cards out. This deck looks awesome. This Ascendancy is great just for value.
Does. Yeah. So here's Jace's ingenuity. Looks like on the main phase to make sure that Ivan can keep hitting his land drops. He didn't have any answers left in hand, so there is an opening now for Neil Oliver to resolve a spell, so that's nice, but he would need something along the lines of a Treasure Cruise to really punish Ivan, and instead he finds a land. So what was already a land-heavy hand for Oliver took a turn towards the spells, but now it's back to being all lands. Meanwhile, Ivan Flock has plenty of action in his hand with another Jace's Ingenuity. He's got a Thoughtseize, a Bile Blight, and all that kind of stuff. And he's also now drawn a Pearl Lake Ancient as well.
Sounds like Jan Tomcani has a Jeskai's Ascendancy on his side of the board, by the way. He's got the Slovak version of the tokens deck.
Yeah, and we're not going to get a great representation of this Jeskai deck in this game because obviously, it wasn't a great draw by Neil and it was a near perfect draw by Ivan. But I'm really curious to see how this deck does down the stretch. Yuya is a great player. It's a brand new deck, from what I hadn't seen anything like it before Worlds. And a lot of teams seem to have chosen to run it here in this World Cup.
I've seen it do some really powerful things over the course of the weekend, getting itself out of positions that I thought, well, it just can't get out of this, and all of a sudden it does. It really is kind of one of those surprising decks. Could be the case, though, that, once you know how to play against it properly, it takes a big hit. And all right, there's a Pearl Lake Ancient now for Ivan Flock. This one's going to take a while, though, so why don't we jump over to our A table. That's our front table. It's Andrew Beckstrom versus Jan Tomcani. So, again, Jeskai tokens, this time against Blue-White Heroic. So what could be a real slugfest there on that table is two relatively assertive decks going at it.
Yeah, the Americans went for the other side of the spectrum with their third deck, with the super aggressive Heroic.
And we're going to jump over there in just a moment. In the meantime, more shenanigans here from Ivan Flock, who's got the Pearl Lake Ancient. Let's not put that one in the bin.
I wish.
I heard Neil say, "I wish."
Yeah, not really even draws here from Ivan and Neil. Neil with a really weak draw, and Ivan with a near perfect draw this game.
Yeah, when your opponent plays Pearl Lake Ancient and you draw a Lightning Strike, things haven't gone super well for you. And again, another 2-drop there from Neil. So here's a live look in, though, at Jan Tomcani versus Andrew Beckstrom. That's Andrew on the right, Jan's on the left. And it looks like both decks have had a chance to kind of do their thing here. A couple of tokens and an Ascendancy out for Jan. Ooh, but Stoke the Flames, nope, that's not going to work.
Wow,
Feat of Resistance is going to save the day here.
Perfect.
Does that resolve?
I think they're just sorting out the triggers from the Jeskai Ascendancy.
Right, Jeskai Ascendancy puts 2 triggers on the stack itself. There's another trigger. There's all types of triggers, and looks like they're sort of in the middle of figuring it out.
Oh, and you know what may have happened? He may have basically let him respond and
miss the triggers.
Yeah, because if he says stoke and you know, okay, it's on you, then if the other person plays a spell, it's kind of too late to do your triggers, right?
I mean, technically, the other person could just put a spell on top of those triggers as well.
Right, but if you gave them the opportunity to respond.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they can't just slap down feet in response to your stoke to steal your ability to do your triggers.
Right.
But if you were to say, like, for example, any responses when you cast stoke or something, he probably didn't say that. I don't really know exactly what happened. We just tuned into this game.
Right. I think you're right. I think that there was just a clarification there. But he is looting now. He has untapped his creatures, so
Okay.
looks like it's all going to happen. But remember, all right, so it looks like he let those resolve. So here's Feat of Resistance. It's going to put not 1, but actually 2 counters here on the favored Hoplite.
He's kind of going off here.
He kind of is going off here, and especially when he gets to attack and draw 2 cards from Ordeal of Thassa there.
Sure. So this counter? Is that what it's targeting?
Yeah, it targeted this, and I transferred. Yes. Draw for turn. Yes.
Okay, draw a card.
How about we draw some more cards?
And there's another counter and a trigger. Draw 2 more cards. He needs to find a couple of ways to protect this thing further. And it looks like he's done just that. In the meantime, Chump Block. Hero of Eros sitting up there as well.
Not interested in attacking into tokens that have been pumped up by the Ascendancy, though.
So was this all on Andrew's upkeep then? Is that what happened?
Oh, yeah. I think
That's why the lands are tapped now. All right, so he's actually going to run out another favorite Hoplite in, and the shields are currently down here for Beckstrom. You know, no matter, he may have God's Willing or something like that in his hand, but he can't cast anything. So maybe an opening for Tomcani to use some burn spells here to try to mitigate the board. Favorite Hoplite's going to be tough to kill as a 6/7. Yeah, second Jeskai Ascendancy is going to get some cards, but it feels like the tempo hit he's going to take from having to pay 3 mana for it this turn is going to be pretty rough to recover from. You got to feel like Andrew Beckstrom's ahead here, Ben.
Yeah, he pretty much has to find a Jeskai Charm and then have Andrew not have a God's Willing or Feat of Resistance. The only card in Andrew's hand I saw clearly was a Defiant Strike, I believe, so I don't know whether he has a God's Willing or Feat of Resistance or not.
Okay.
Now Andrew's got to figure out, does he want to attack into a token and an untapped mana and 2 Jeskai Ascendancies?
Interestingly, I think Andrew seems to have drawn a very creature-heavy hand. I think he has 2 more Hero of Eros in his hand as well.
There's not a whole lot you can play for 1 mana out of this Jeskai deck, so I think it's a good situation for Andrew to attack. He even has a Defiant Strike to pump his guys, so if somehow Jan did have a spell, it's possible that Defiant Strike would end up trumping it.
No, you're right. There's no 1-mana spells in the main. I mean, not unless you count Treasure Cruise.
So here's a nice attack here for Beckstrom,
anyway.
who's sitting at 17 life anyway. And not under a ton of pressure as there's only just the 1 soldier.
You
So
just fire off Defiant Strike here, right? Get a token,
do
get
you?
a couple damage in.
yeah, you probably do, right? Because you get it a couple of extra damage as well.
Oh, he must have. Okay, this is a more mana-efficient way for him to play his hand. A pair of
right.
2 drops.
It's funny. Usually they build 1 big creature.
It's so funny how wide he's gone here.
Yeah.
Wider than the tokens deck.
And he's got Defiant Strike and I think another Hero of Eros in his hand too.
Whatever works. You want to put out a couple Jeskai Ascendancies instead of blockers, then I'll just put out 5 little creatures.
No kidding. So Jan Tomcani getting towards desperation mode. He does have an Erasure Alarm, though, which can do some serious work in this deck, as he can play instants on his opponent's turn and pump up his tokens.
He played it
and
main
block.
phase so that he could loot twice.
And here's a Scry. Lots of library manipulation once you get the Jeskai Ascendancy down.
There's going to be a lot of fireworks on this turn.
There certainly are. And let's see what Andrew Beckstrom draws. This is a big draw step for him. And unfortunately for Andrew, it was just a land. Temple of Enlightenment's going to ship a card to the bottom. And right now, Jan can play Stoke the Flames. That would make his soldiers into 2/2s, which are untapped.
3/3s with the 2 Jeskai.
Excuse me, 3/3s. Thank you, Ben.
And I mean, this is where you use that new cool feature on Magic Online, attack with all my creatures.
My favorite button.
Yeah, but it's not going to be that horrible for Jan because he does have the Stoke. So he's going to have 2 3/3s and the ability to deal 4 damage.
Right.
Definitely still a clearer attack for Andrew, though, because when the dust settles here, I don't think it's going to be too great a spot for Jan Tomcani.
Yeah, I mean, Jan's down to 9 life here. He's got major issues. That one favorite hoplite sitting down there is cracking in for 6 damage on its own. He may be forced to chump block with one of his 3/3s.
Yeah, one thing he could do, I think, is do this Stoke before blockers, so to see how it ends up working out, because his guys will untap from the Jeskai Ascendancies. And then if the Stoke successfully clears out that Battle-Wise Hoplite, you know, he could then go ahead and make whatever blocks he wants. Like, he could try and block both heroes with his 3/3 tokens. Would he be able to live 6?
I think he would take 7.
Yeah, he would take 7. So he would die to anything.
Anything.
But I'm not sure that you're trying to beat
anything. Is he just dying to anything here,
What's
perhaps?
the other card in Tomcani's hand?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But he does
Stoke
have
and an
double
unknown card?
ascendancy, so maybe if he can get
It's
into
a Seeker of the Way, Randy.
Okay. Right, I mean, 2 loots. He could come up with another instant in theory.
Right. So this
Well,
is,
he's going to be tapped out, though, right?
there are some turns where I blame people for going deep in the tank, but this is not one of them.
Yeah, this is a really tough spot, and here it comes, Stoke the Flames, to kill a hero of Erois. Trigger, 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 trigger. There are 4 triggers on the stack. That's a fun one. That Ascendancy. It looks like the Americans are posturing a little bit about if they want to respond, but they don't.
Yes, triggers first.
Yeah,
Triggers
triggers
first.
resolve before the creature dies.
Seeker goes away. Hordling Outburst replaces another Hordling Outburst. Stoke resolves, and now the 2 soldiers are 1/1s, or 3/3s, excuse me.
Yeah, and
So chump block.
yeah, he makes that decision, which having drawn a Hordling Outburst makes more sense than it did previously. He's still going to need to find another spell that he can basically play after the Hordling Outburst, so he can trigger those Jeskai Ascendancies again and have 3 3/3s on
Right.
Andrew's next turn if he's going to stay in the game.
And sorry, here's Defiant Strike on the hero. That makes sure that it trades with the token.
Right. So that's why his back's still to the wall, but we know he gets his draw step plus 2 loots from the Jeskai Ascendancy when he plays the Outburst.
Yeah, that could be huge. I mean, one thing that this deck is great at, you know, it's a tokens deck. It puts out a lot of small creatures, and they can block well. Now, unfortunately, you know, if he plays the Hordling Outburst here, which is what he's going to do, they're all going to be red creatures, and that means there's a lot of things. God's Willing comes into play, Feat of Resistance, and of course, cards like Aqueous Form.
Sure, but if he
Like how
doesn't
he
have, if
tanks
Andrew
on
doesn't,
through.
He
if
tanks
An-
on whether to discard land or land, trying to convince Andrew that he's got real spells.
Yeah, if Andrew doesn't have anything and Jan had drawn into Raise the Alarm or Lightning Strike or something like that, this game would be far from over.
Yeah.
Because Jan has Treasure Cruises to refuel if he can stabilize or even just basically stave off this pressure.
Right.
As is, I think Jan is going to be pretty much out of it because he didn't find Raise the Alarm or Lightning Strike or anything to do here.
And by the way, I think that's God's Willing off the top for Andrew Beckstrom.
Well,
Now, does he have... Go ahead, Ben.
Oh, no, that'll just end it, I think.
it's-
Well,
that's
will
game.
it, though? What if...
2 untap mana.
2 untap mana, right.
Could be Raise the Alarm.
I mean, it's not 2, it's 4 with Stoke, but that's not big enough to kill the favorite hoplite
Well,
anyway.
if he goes pro-red and then Raise the Alarm happens, that's obviously annoying.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Randy, because I don't think he should go for it. He's in a pretty good position, and Raise the Alarm is one of the things that, you know, you think he would have been looking for with those loots, and he saw 3 cards that turn.
Right.
So I think you kind of don't really want to just go for it here. You're in a good position. I think you just attack, use your God's Willing profitably after blockers. If he has nothing, it's like chump. If he has chump double block or something, and then you can God's Willing and you're in a great spot. If he has the Raise the Alarm, the God's Willing is certainly better to use post Raise the Alarm. So since you're good if he has nothing anyway, and God's Willing will still be pretty effective after the Raise the Alarm, I don't think it makes sense to just go for it in this spot.
Okay, well, let's see what the Americans come up with here.
Hopefully he doesn't agree with me, though.
Something about us knowing it would work if he went for it.
Yeah.
But no bias.
Well, you know, you can't blame me for rooting for the Americans.
Keep it going, guys. Okay. Alright, I'll make your point. I guess
Okay, here's God's willing. He might just be going for
He's
it.
just got the read. You don't have it.
Pump this up.
Red.
Protection from red. And I think that the Americans have decided just to go for it, and it's going to work.
Wow.
Wow.
Nice.
And it absolutely works there. 1 mana short for Jan Tomcani, and Andrew Beckstrom picks up the first game of that match.
Is Owen still in game 1?
All right, I'm assuming that we've moved on to game 2 here.
Yeah, this is Flock and Oliver game 2.
Yeah, so let's just say that Flock won that first game.
He did.
And we move right into a clear board on turn 5.
Yeah, I was going to say 5 lands on Neil's side and no other permanents.
Although, interestingly, he's firing a Jeskai Charm right at Ivan Flock's head
yeah,
here
what are the
on
life
end step.
totals?
So the
That's
life
the real
totals have
question.
come into play in a pretty major way here. There's a Treasure Cruise in hand now for Oliver, and he's going to fire it off. Getting aggressive, but a pair of negates for Flock's essentially ensures that that's not going to resolve anytime soon, even though Oliver does actually have another Treasure Cruise in hand. Just don't think he can really
17 to
protect
20.
it. Geez, and another negate.
Jeskai Charm knocked him all the way down from 21 to 17.
Yeah, and
He's at
lands
13.
are a pretty good draw for Ivan,
Oh,
too, because he
13,
has the Pearl Lake Ancient. So, I mean, anything could happen, but this is where Ivan wants to be in this game.
Jeskai Ascendancy now off the top for Neil Oliver. Though it doesn't really look like it's going to do a ton. Flock has so many counter spells in hand, he might just counter it no matter what.
You want to play the Ascendancy here first, because if he has exactly 1 counter, you want him to use it on the Ascendancy.
That's right.
You'd rather the Cruise resolve. And if he has no counters, it's better to play the Ascendancy first also.
What, 1 mana short of cruising that
He
turn?
is 1 mana short, that's right. He's going to do it this turn, but it's also going to get countered. Wait a minute. He found a Disdainful Stroke. Can he make this work? No.
No, it's not the right one. He needed to
No.
find a negate.
Can't do it. He will be able to leave up Disdainful Stroke, but it's unlikely to counter anything super relevant. But here goes Treasure Cruise on the stack. And this is what those negates are for, Flock, so he's going to fire that off. That Pearl Lake Ancient stays in his hand for another turn. He finds an Urborg. And now he's got enough mana to cast the Ancient as well.
Kind of an unfortunate set of draws for the Americans here.
Oh, he's going to run it out there.
Well, it can't be countered.
That's right. So, bang, hit for 6.
If Ivan had just drawn a different potential finisher, like Dig Through Time, Neil would have been able to Disdainful Stroke it, and, you know, he would still certainly be in this game, maybe just a little bit behind.
Mm-hmm.
But exactly the way these cards lined up was just very fortunate for Ivan. I mean, Pearl Lake Ancient, you know, coming into play while Neil's last card is a counterspell.
Right. Or from the Slovak side of things, he savagely outplayed Neil Oliver.
Well, Ivan plays this deck extremely well.
I know, he's...
Blue-black, I don't mean to make it
World-class.
sound like, you know, it's just all luck. Blue-black is an incredibly difficult deck, and you see Ivan making all these decisions very quickly, knowing exactly what he needs to do. And I can't criticize a single decision he's made. Everything's looked spot on.
Yeah, he's a world-class player of this deck. All right, we've got life totals from one of our side tables at 55 to 3.
Close game.
That is the Black-Green Constellation mirror match.
All right, so Mikhail Gulon has beaten Owen Turtenwald in that first game.
You mean Michael Gulon and Matej Zadokai have beaten Owen Turtenwald?
I would assume that. And here comes Pearl Lake Ancient once again. That's going to drop Oliver down to 7 and put him potentially on a 1-turn clock.
Can Flock trigger Prowess to finish it next
Yeah,
turn?
could absolutely be the case.
1 Prowess trigger?
Yeah, he's got a Hero's Downfall in his hand, which is actually kind of perfect if Neil leaves up the 1 blocker.
It is. You know, Oliver's down to 7. Ivan Flock's at 11.
Oh, wow, and Ivan's other card is a Dissolve, too.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. All right, both tokens hit the red zone. Flock's like, yep, 9.
Neil deciding, like, I can't really beat a removal. I'd have to leave both up, and I'm, you know, in a bad spot anyway.
Yep.
So I'll just attack with both.
Yeah, this is the kind of point where you get to assume they have nothing because your only chance is that they have nothing.
But Flock just has a almost stone lock on this game, right?
everything is a lot different from
protect
nothing.
it. He can protect his Hero's Downfall with a Dissolve.
Can
Yeah,
use
Ivan's got
Perilous
this.
Vault for the
We'll
prowess
be
trigger.
going to one of the other matches to see what's going on.
Right, so there's the trigger of prowess on the Pearl Lake Ancient to pump it up to 7 power. And all he's got left to do is crack it into the
stroke
red
doesn't
zone.
even help.
There it goes, and Ivan Flock takes the match. So Slovak Republic is the first one to take one of the 3 matches. One more match to go for them. You see Matej Zadelkai there sitting with Mikal, and he's jumping back over. Very active in the coach seat. You know, if they didn't have him actually battling, they figured they're going to have to get a lot out of him from the coach seat, and it looks like they've done just that.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy makes sense to me. You have 2 good players. So you have Ivan playing the hard deck basically by himself, focused on his match, not distracted, but not really able to help his teammates. And then you have Matej to look at the 2 matches. Probably one of them is close and hard, and one of them's not that close, and he can just, go and weigh in and help exactly where needed.
I feel like, to be fair, they have 2 great players. Jan Tomcani has a Pro Tour top 8.
Yeah, Jan certainly is a guy who wouldn't necessarily need help. I don't know if he's still really active or not.
That's fair. I mean, I think he's a cut below Matej and Ivan these days. I'm sure Gulon is the one who's been getting the most support.
Absolutely.
Now that Flock's done, though, easy.
Now they've
Pair
each
'em
got a
up.
personal coach. Look.
Yeah, that visual's great.
Yeah, they're grouped in two groups of 2 here.
I mean, not to be a traitor, but I'll probably take Matej and Tomcani in a heads-up battle there. That's a lot of experience there. Both Pro Tour top 8 competitors.
Yeah, and it looked like for the Americans, Neil came over to help one of these.
To help Andrew.
Right, well, Owen's mostly just focused on his own match. So they're doing it pretty similarly. They didn't sit out the same player, but now, with Neil's match done, he runs over and helps Andrew, and Owen is just basically on his island, focused on his match.
You got to figure like you'd just be slowing down Turtenwald.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually really like that. In team, I think too many cooks can spoil the brew. Of course, it's better to watch a match if you have nothing else to do because you might catch, a blatant mistake or something and help your team. But I don't think it's productive to have 3 people discussing every play.
I agree with you, Ben. I've seen it. And in fact, I heard some of the players say that as they let their teammates play. They said, what we found is their brains just shut off.
Yep.
6-card hand here for Tomcani.
Andrew Beckstrom on blue-white heroic. He picked up the first game. We just watched that on camera. By a bold play on the last turn. Sometimes you just decide they don't have it. Maybe they'd seen a couple of raise the alarms earlier.
They had seen
in the
at
game.
least, we saw 1 and we didn't watch the whole game, so there could have been 2 or 3 in the yard.
That could make it less likely.
I feel pretty confident that it really wasn't better to go for it than not go for it there.
Sure.
But, it worked out, and I'm glad they went for it.
Okay, in comes the favored hoplite for just 1 point of damage, and a follow-up land for Beckstrom means not exactly an explosive start, though you'll often see this blue-white heroic deck play their creatures one mana off curve so that they can protect them. Goblin Rabble Master, though, says, here, take 1 from my little friend, and there's a Defiant Strike to get a counter on favored hoplite and draw a card, signaling maybe a lack of lands or something like that.
Well, it
Could
does
have just
replace
been-
itself, use your mana, and put the counter there permanently.
So maybe just using your spells.
Yeah, I mean, I think you more often than not would probably power up your creature there. The Heroic deck doesn't play that many lands and has a lot of cheap spells, so on games where it's not flooded, it generally wants to use all its mana if it can.
Just cycle on through.
Yeah, I mean, I know every deck wants to do that, but it's not the same with decks that have a lot of lands, like Blue-Black Control, for example. They can wait on their spells to maybe get slightly more value, knowing they're going to make a lot of land drops, and they're not going to use all their mana every turn.
Right.
A deck like Heroic, if it draws exactly 3 lands or something, wants to try and do that.
Okay. So Ordeal of Thassa there netted 2 cards and another +1/+1 counter on the favored hoplite.
Once again, we see he used all his mana, so that
Right.
Defiant Strike wouldn't have had the opportunity to be used this turn.
Right. It's also a 4/5, so they've gotten it out of Stoke range,
geez.
but not out of Glare of Heresy range.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was going to be close outracing that Rabblemaster. Like, I think he was going to be able to outrace the Rabblemaster. Stratus Walk in particular was going to be super useful, but Glare of Heresy ends all those plans.
Yeah, wow, and this is a huge chunk of damage now. 6 hitting Andrew Beckstrom. And being
he's got
behind is not where this deck is good.
Right. I mean, he's got the ability to build another large creature if you look at his hand, right? He's got hoplites, he's got spells to put on them, but can you do that quicker than that Rabblemaster's going to finish you off? I'm not sure you can.
He might just have to trade with the Rabblemaster here, or use potential God's Will or Feat of Resistance to try and eat it.
And just hope that his opponent doesn't Lightning Strike, Jeskai Charm.
Well, he actually has Defiant Strike and God's Willing, so he can't get around Jeskai Charm putting it on top, but he can get around Lightning Strike, I think.
Okay. Not bad.
Tomcani just drew another Glare. Or am I misseeing an erase?
No, I think it's a Glare. That is definitely a Glare of Heresy.
Well, if he goes for Glare, this is going to be awesome for Andrew. This is, like, Andrew's happy he drew Glare.
God's Willing says no. Naming white.
Are you supposed to name? Yeah, okay.
Got to name white. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the Rabblemaster doesn't have to attack,
Right.
so it's not the end of the world for Jan. Presumably, he will make a Goblin and attack with just those, and one of them will suicide itself for the good cause of 2 damage. But, you know, Andrew, with the guy out, not taking a lot of damage, and he's got the opportunity to start playing guys and building again. And that's what his deck is trying to do.
Jan asking how many cards you got. And in comes the team. One of them's going to get eaten. But 2 damage still going to hit Andrew Beckstrom, who's definitely not at 20. I think he's at like 12.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He took that 1 hit for 4 last turn, and then
For
2
6,
here.
For 6 and then 2 here, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now you see the true team aspect coming into play. That's Neil Oliver.
So the other match in this group is done. The Russian Federation defeats Mexico.
Okay.
So Mexico is 0-2. The Russians are 1-1 and are going to play Team USA next round. That's actually really good news for Team USA.
How come?
It means that if they beat the Russians next time, that there can't be, they're in. They no longer must win this match.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, what does it mean if they do win this match? Does that secure it, or do they still have to beat the Russians?
No, if the Russians beat them, the Russians have the tiebreaker edge.
Okay.
This match is now irrelevant.
Wow.
Well,
Now, what about
don't tell me
for-
that. This is a good game.
What about for the Slovak Republic?
There's probably some crazy 1-2 scenario where it is still relevant. But
Sure.
I mean, the Slovaks, we knew coming in if they won this, they clinched. The Slovaks control their own destiny. Even with a loss here, they could just beat Mexico. The Slovaks can, in fact, still back in at 1-2, I think. If
Whoever's 2-0-3-0.
if Mexico is, no, Mexico would get the 1-2.
Okay, but this is still important for Slovak to win this match then.
Yeah, Slovak is playing to clinch, and the United States is...
Looking on to the next match, although they clearly won't know that yet.
Yeah, the United States must beat Russia next round either way.
All right, so all the goblins come into the red zone, and Beckstrom says, we can do this. Block, 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 all of them die. Remember, they must attack. That wasn't some reckless bluff.
Yeah, we talked about when this group came out, Mexico at the 1 seed was probably not the toughest team in the group. The fact that the 1 seed has gone 0-2 is why these scenarios are lining up the way they are.
Yeah, and they are interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really do love this whole group thing. I know I said
me
it once
too.
earlier, but with the seeding, so what you did early in the tournament has a lot of weight, but then anybody could advance. All the matches are exciting. Well, except this one apparently right now. But this is a great game of Magic, so I assume they're still going to try and win it. So we can still study and analyze their plays and
They also don't know.
figure out what's going on.
Yeah, let's not
They have no
forget
idea
that
the
there's
Russians
still
have won.
a lot on the line here for Slovak Republic too. So to start things off for Beckstrom here, Stratus Walk. Remember, it only costs 1, thanks to the hero of Erois.
So it's all going to come down to the Cold War in the last round. The U.S. versus the Russian Federation for the spot on Sunday.
By the way, Owen Turtenwald has made an appearance here.
Are we holding his match? Is that what's going on?
I do think that that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, so Owen has now showed up. And, oh, by the way, that's the #1 Magic player in the world that is now peeking over your shoulder and figuring out what's going on.
Yeah, this is a good little tribunal.
Yeah, what you'll hear, though, is that the judge is now going to step in and make sure that things are proceeding in a timely fashion.
You see Ivan over their shoulder.
Yep.
It has turned into a 3-on-3.
It's actually 4-on-4.
I wonder, you know, I wonder if I'm in that position, Ben, reflecting on what you said a minute ago about too many cooks. You know, I wonder if I just get out of the way and just let Owen.
That's what Gulon and Sears have done.
Yeah.
Gulon on the one side, Sears on the other.
Yeah, that's why I called it a 3-on-3, because they're watching. They obviously care, but you see them kind of standing back and letting you know the pros lead.
Yeah, I see that now. One thing I've also seen some of the teams do is Neil Oliver's actually keeping life total. So it's just something that Beckstrom can just take off of his table. He doesn't have to worry about keeping track.
That's interesting, because I have seen a lot of teams do that, but I feel like keeping track of the life totals also keeps me updated on the life totals.
It is a decision that you have to make. On one hand, it's one less responsibility that your brain has to think about, but on the other hand, that information is something that kind of gets etched into your brain every time you write it down, and you know, having to look over time and time again might be more distracting than just writing it down yourself. It's something that each team has to figure out for themselves.
I wonder if Neil is mostly playing this game, you know, as far as making the decisions, because I think he was here for the start of the game. And I know that Neil and Owen have both praised Andrew, but Neil clearly a stronger overall player than Andrew.
Yeah, he's more experienced as well.
So if I were Andrew, I would, if Neil saw this whole game, I would want Neil to basically, you know, lead here.
Yeah, Neil hasn't quite finished losing his match at the very start.
Okay, so interesting. He got here around turn 2 or 3 then? Certainly
about the same time we did.
Yeah,
ordeal with Heliod?
That's what the deck does.
That's standard playable? So he's going to gain 10 life here. Or is he? Looks like Jan has... so they were going to go to attacks. Andrew was about to battle, and Jan stopped him to have a little chat here with Matej Zadelkai.
He's got an erase. He can point at one of those at the ordeal if he wants to turn it off.
I mean...
Do you see the smile on Jan's face? He's kind of like, am I really going to do this?
Am I going to erase an ordeal?
This is a tough game for Jan to win.
Think of it as W deal 10.
But yeah, exactly. You certainly want to erase that, right?
It's a hard game to win with this deck if you let him gain 10.
Yeah.
If you put it that way, Randy, I'm a lot more sold on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a tough game for Jan to win, but I think this is a clear play. He's at 12. That's about the only thing you have going.
Nice try.
Okay. So that hoplite still has flying. And now you hear Owen Turtenwald chiming in. Attack with everybody but the hero of Eros, he said.
Yeah, he wants a blocker so that Rabble Master can't get in an attack.
Yeah, you're definitely not scared of the Rabble Master blocking. Not really sure what you are scared of. Maybe some sort of end-of-turn removal on tap.
They're fine trading. I heard them say pass priority. They're just like, yeah, that's fine.
Happy to trade with the Rabble Master. There's another one coming, though.
This is after sideboard. I wonder if Jan has access to any sweepers.
That's an interesting decision. I'm going to answer that question for you, Ben. No, he does not. So Andrew Beckstrom wins his match for the USA here. Remember, Ivan Floch defeated Neil Oliver in 2 relatively quick games himself, and that leaves Owen Turtenwald down a game in the black-green constellation mirror against Mikhail Gulon and company.
Yeah, and you see Neil quickly settled into the coach seat. I'm sure Isaac and Andrew are going to come over, watch, and if they see anything wrong, they'll speak up. But, you know, I think this is going to be a little two-headed giant here.
I think you're probably right. With one very large head, Owen, I think, is going to take the strong lead here. He certainly has a lot of experience with these sort of mid-rangey type decks as well. This isn't like one thing where he's out on a limb like, I don't usually play these. He knows exactly what he's doing here.
Well, yeah, this is the same deck that he ran in the World Championships, right? For the most part, I mean.
Yeah.
They might.
Yeah, Pantheon played Black Green Constellation.
Right.
This is their
yeah,
list.
they might have had to change a card or something depending on splits, but I mean, for the most part, I think this is virtually the exact same deck.
Probably a big part of the decision-making process as well for Turtenwald, as after having put in however many hours with the deck in preparation for the World Championship, having it in his hands here had to be a big deal.
Yeah, and I spoke to them afterwards, and they really liked their deck. I know none of them are in the top 4, but I think Reed 5-0'd or 4-0'd the standard with this deck.
Oh,
and,
wow.
yeah, I think that they felt pretty good about it and had a pretty good record overall.
Okay, well, let's let the value train ride here as the old Courser of Crewfix comes down with still a land drop to spare, and he's going to hit that right off the top of his library. Landwar Waste hit the battlefield and gains him a life. So, you know, we talked about this start before, guys, but the old Caryatid into Courser is in effect here.
Yeah, I also, there is more on the line for Team USA here than I said a minute ago. There's actually a scenario where if they win this and Mexico beats the Slovaks, that they can back in with a loss against Russia.
Oh, wow.
So this is definitely a big win. The other thing on the line for Team USA here is if they 3-0 the pod, they get one of the top 4 seeds, they get to choose play draw on Sunday for at least the quarterfinals.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very relevant,
Yeah, no, so there are multiple reasons the U.S. want to win this game, even though to control their own destiny, they must beat Russia next round.
Did I just see Feast of Dreams?
That's choosing play draw in all 3 matches, too. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said, did I just see Feast of Dreams? Is that what that is up there? It is, right? I've drafted that card before.
Somebody was ready for this matchup.
Okay. So remember, this is Team Unified standard. So these decks aren't quite fully powered, you know, independent standard decks. They've had to share the card pool with each other. So it's not like every deck can have 4 Courser of Crewfix. There's only 4 to go around for all 3. So you'll see some sideboard stretches like that, like a Feast of Dreams or something like that you might not normally see.
Yeah, but there was also a ton of this in the World Championships.
Yeah.
Straight black-green and a lot of Sidisi Whip, black-green-blue with enchantment creatures. So I think they might have just decided to come ready for that deck.
Yeah, that makes sense.
PGO went 8-4 with this list in the World.
So that's a great record in the
That is
World
a great record,
Championships.
absolutely. The lists are pretty close. They're not card for card identical, but they're pretty close here in this mirror.
Okay.
I mean, they've both gone all the way to Eidolon of Blossoms.
Courser of Crewfix gets Murderous Cut, but the card draw keeps flowing here for Turtenwald as he has an Eidolon of Blossoms to immediately get him another draw step. So, Ben, where does this game go from here? Both players have been kind of jockeying. They've both done some things, but what's the big play that we should look for to see when somebody really pulls ahead?
Well, this matchup can go back and forth and can go long. You see some really high life totals, some really long games, and a lot of cards get drawn pretty frequently. I don't know that there's any one play. I mean, there's a lot of big plays. Eidolon of Blossoms is actually really good. If that happens to live, you know, Owen keeps drawing extra cards, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean, Eidolons are big deal. I think Whip of Erebos is the most important card in the matchup.
Yes, Whip
If either player gets an unanswered Whip, they're in great position.
Okay,
Right.
so Whip of Erebos we'll be keeping our eye out for as well.
But the thing is, there's answers. You know, there's Reclamation Sages.
Yeah, an unanswered Whip.
Yeah. But I'm just saying there's like a lot of answers back and forth. So that's how you get some of these great epic games where it's not just like, does he have it? It's like after he has the Whip, then we have to see if he has the answer.
Yeah, how much value does he get from the Whip before you find the answer?
Exactly. I think one of the big cards that's tough to answer is Farika.
Yeah, both players have 2 Farikas in the main.
I know that one of the reasons Owen thought they had an edge against other CDC Whip decks was because they play 2 Commune with Nature and Farika, so they
Commune with
figured...
the Gods?
What?
Commune with the Gods.
Commune with the
Commune with
Gods,
the
I'm
Gods.
sorry, yeah. And they can search for Farika, and Farika is very tough to deal with, so they feel like that's one way, you know, while everything else is trading off, they can get a Farika going and then, you know, win the game.
Not an edge in this matchup, though. Gulon plays 3.
Oh, wow. So they have Feast of Dreams in the sideboard and 3 Farikas, so they really wanted to beat Sidisi Whip or
Yes.
Black-Green Constellation.
Only 4 Feast of Dreams in the sideboard.
Only 4?
Only 4.
I should have went with 6.
Wow.
Yeah,
Commune with the Gods was what Owen Turtenwald played there.
they came ready for this matchup.
Crazy.
And there's a Read the Bones. So we have definitely seen the incremental card advantage. And right when you mention it, Ben, I saw Farika being drawn by Owen Turtenwald. A nice little Read the Bones there. Murderous Cut to finish off the Eidolon of Blossoms. And you can see how crisp Owen Turtenwald is with his play here. He knows this matchup inside and out. He knows exactly what the important cards are. And he even bashes in there for 2 with his own Eidolon.
He definitely does. One of the few things I'm wondering about is why he did the Murderous Cut on his turn. There probably is a reason.
To attack?
Oh, okay, to get in the 2 damage, sure.
Yeah. And there's a Commune with the Gods on the other side. Let's see what it reveals. Whip of Erebos.
Mm-hmm.
A little whip versus Farika battle?
Yeah. How does that pan out?
I don't know. It depends what's getting whipped back, what's in play, how many creatures are in the graveyard for Owen to start making 1/1 death touches with his Farika.
Sure.
All right, and another 2-for-1 back in the other direction. There is a lot of jabs being thrown here. Reclamation Sage takes down Eidolon of Blossoms for Owen Turtenwald, but his leaves behind a 2-1 body.
Yeah, Owen does not have much black mana, right?
He's only got 2 black mana sources, the Sylvan Caryatid and the Llanowar Waste currently.
Yeah, if he gets into a Farika versus Whip battle.
Yeah, he found another one here with the Temple of Malady, and there's even another one with this.
All right, so he's got plenty of mana now.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard for Gulon to...
Yeah, next turn is going to be pretty big for Owen Turtenwald. He's going to untap with 2, 4, 6, 8, up to 9 mana that turn, and he can kind of go off.
If this Eidolon lives, he's going to go off. It's not going to be kinda. I'm not 100% whether this Eidolon's going to live yet or not, but Farika makes 1/1 enchantment creatures.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And
so
Owen
if that
found his own
Eidolon
whip.
of Blossom sticks, he's going to get to draw a card for each time?
Oh, yes.
Oh, baby. I see a Reclamation Sage, though, in hand for Mikhail Gulon, and I'm assuming, based on his play last turn, that he's going to kill this Eidolon of Blossoms again.
Sure.
I may have assumed wrong here.
You might be right. If he used that
there another
Nithcos
mana?
for mana, he might have a couple in his pool.
Correct. That could be the case, too. So we'll see. If he just magically plays that Reclamation Sage from his hand for free, we'll know. And there it is.
Sure.
Eidolon of Blossoms down. So Owen Turtenwald doesn't get to completely go crazy here. Only 1 damage is going to get through. All right, so Courser Crew Fix to start things off here for Turtenwald. Finds a Jungle Hollow. Might as well play it. What's next? Another Caryatid. He's got that Farika.
I think he'll... I guess he's debating between Reclamation Sage on Corsa or Farika. There's no reason to play the Whip here. I think he'll go with Farika, yeah. You want to start making 1/1s, and you're not that scared of Corsair at this point. Also,
What, 1 pip from turning it on, too?
yeah, and you know your opponent could have definitely found a whip by now. So I don't
You
think...
saw your opponent find a whip. with
Oh, okay,
Commune.
sure. So so you definitely don't want to spend your Reclamation Sage on a Corsair as opposed to that whip.
Right.
I like Mikhail's shirt there.
It's fairly ironic. Sleeves aren't bad either.
And I see a Doomwake Giant there for Gulon. Does that do much here?
Well, it really depends on how Owen blocks.
Yep.
He's certainly going to have that in the back of his head.
I mean, if he made an attack with the Reclamation Sages, the Caryatids, if they blocked, they would die to the Doomwake.
That's right, but
2 green floating.
it looks like he's going to just run it out there first main here. Doesn't seem to be the play here.
Well, if it lets him play extra things, then this is probably right, because it was going to be a minimal amount of damage. If it doesn't let him do anything extra, then I don't think he needed to do this pre-combat. I think I would have made some kind of attack with the Reclamation Sages.
And there's the Whip of Erebos, which is a second trigger on the Doomwake Giant. So this is just going to allow him to attack for 5 damage or so.
Yeah, the nice thing about this is it lets him attack with the Courser also.
Oh, okay. That makes it 7.
Yeah, I don't think I would send the Wayfinder, because that Courser's just going to block it, and the Courser wasn't good at chump blocking anything else. But I don't think that'll matter. I don't think he's that concerned about the Wayfinder on tap. And he actually gains a life from the whip, so maybe it's not wrong. But the Wayfinder also could block a potential 5/5 Farika or something of that nature. But with Owen, definitely the one on his back foot.
All right.
no big deal either way.
No big deal, but Mikhail Gulon, he's out of cards now, but he's got a fairly impressive board state. As he passes the turn back to Turtenwald, it's on you, Owen, to figure out a way to get through all of this. He's got a lot to contend with. There's a Whip of Erebos, a Doomwake Giant over there. The rest I think he can handle pretty easily. Reclamation Sage on the Doomwake Giant, so the whip gets to live.
He figures he can fight it with Farika, I guess?
I guess that's going to be his strategy.
He can't quite whip back anything from his graveyard yet.
He's got his own Whip of Erebos.
But that turns on Farika.
It certainly does, and he gets to attack for 7 of his own, and this also has lifelink.
Sure. It was 17.
So
and you can see how these matches have the potential to be fun.
I can see that immediately. Now Owen's at 17. Mikhail Gulon drops down to 20.
I think they've got 18 minutes left. They obviously had an extension when we were holding them, but I believe it's 18 left.
Remember that Mikhail Gulon is up a game here.
Yep.
And as far as matches go, the USA has won 1 match, and the Slovak Republic has won a match themselves. So this is going to be the decider. This is a big match for these countries for setting up their chance to make the top 8. And then if they are to make the top 8, to give them the best seed possible. You know, when you take being able to choose whether you're going to play or draw and you multiply it by 3, it ends up being a really sizable advantage.
That is really important. The change to those rules, allowing the higher seed to go first, has definitely gotten people to play in some of the later rounds when they might have ID'd.
I like
and
that.
the dance begins. Whip back my Eidolon. Nope, eat it with Farika.
Yeah, so it gets turned into a snake. So Gulon does get something out of the deal.
And that shows us why Owen, Reclamation Sage, the Doomwake, he felt he could mitigate the whips effect with his Farika. It's not horrible for Mikhail Gulon because he's getting 1/1 death touches and he's gaining life, but he's not gaining all the value of whipping back Reclamation Sages and Doomwake Giants and things of that nature.
He just made an attack, though, that allowed Owen to block with Reclamation Sage and get it into the graveyard.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, that could be bad. Good eye, Randy. This getting rid of Gul'dan's whip means there will be no more snakes hitting the battlefield for him, courtesy of Owen Turtenwald.
Yeah, that may have been one of the first true mistakes here in this really long, hard game.
It's tricky, though. Is he just going to not attack?
Well, if you have a really big attack, but with Owen still at this much life, with a whip in play.
Just don't even bother attacking.
Yeah, not an attack this small. You got to wait until you have more going on.
And here's Read the Bones to kick things off for Turtenwald, and he finds the Eidolon of Blossoms as well as a Satyr Wayfinder. Is there a point in the game here, guys, where decking yourself becomes a thing? Wow, 2 good cards off the top there for Owen.
Yeah, Doomwake's pretty good.
Doomwake as well.
I think decking yourself can be real in matchups like this, but with Owen having a Farika and his opponent really under control, I don't think he's worried about it in this particular game.
Okay. He did issue, though, the Wayfinder. He didn't want that, and again, he found that Doomwake Giant instead. And wow, maybe he's going to deck himself the good old-fashioned way, just draw a bunch of cards. He's already got an Eidolon of Blossoms in hand, and now he's going to have one for next turn as well, at least. No, he doesn't even want it.
Yeah, Scryland.
Ooh,
That's
Queen.
what he wants.
Now, this is kind of what he wanted here, right? There's no Doomwake Giant on the other side, and this can actually attack.
He's really sitting pretty right now. I know there's a lot in play, and you know, he's got to consider exactly how to maximize things. But with his opponent, inability to whip back creatures, just get a 1/1 snake every turn, and Owen's ability to whip back creatures, draw cards, he's got access to everything that deck does to really gain extra value.
Yeah, I mean, Owen's winning percentage at this point has got to be well over, what, 80%?
Yeah.
90%?
Yeah, I don't know how Owen can lose. There are probably ways because
Well,
these
the
decks...
Eidolon on top of Gul'dan's library could chain into enough advantage.
Right.
It's going to have to be something like that, where Gul'dan chains a bunch of value off that Eidolon.
Right, these decks do
Owen
some
can kill
really
it.
powerful things, so nobody's ever locked. But it's definitely going to be quite an uphill battle for Mikhail Gulon.
Yeah.
All right, and this was the culmination of that error we saw a little while ago. The Reclamation Sage has now been whipped back, and Whip of Erebos hits the bin there for Gul'dan. He does not have access to that powerful artifact enchantment anymore. And Owen has Farika, God of Affliction, still fully powered up and attacking for 5 alongside a Reclamation Sage, another one. And again, the consideration is, you know, does Gulon actually want another Reclamation Sage in Turtenwald's graveyard?
I think
Well, that one's going to get removed from the game.
Yeah, that's the one he whipped back.
That's the one he whipped back?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think what Gulon is deciding is whether to basically chump block the Farika or not. He's got plenty of life, but he also knows Doomwake Giants are flying around, so, you know, he might just want to throw a 1 toughness creature in front of the 5/5.
Yeah, that snake is not going to live all that long.
Exactly.
I mean, right now it's holding off Courser because it's a death-touching snake.
Yeah, and just forcing your opponent to do something maybe a turn earlier than they would have might be the right play, because life isn't really a valuable resource for Gulon in this game.
Owen elects to play a Caryatid instead of leaving up Farika mana.
A luxury he has because he knows what Gul'dan's going to draw.
Okay, well,
Eidolon
you guys
into
just
Eidolon.
said chain them together, and
Yeah,
and
that's
remember,
a good start. There's
yeah,
a Nykthos in play, too.
I was
Yeah.
just going to say
Nykthos
that
makes, what,
there's
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
We could see a really big turn here. There's a Courser in play, too, to help clear a land off. So Gul'dan's got the ability to draw a lot of cards and make a lot of mana.
All right, so here's the first Eidolon of Blossoms to draw
Silence
the
the
other
Beavers.
Eidolon of Blossoms.
That silence is an answer to Farika.
Yep.
Silence the Believers on top of the library. He has access to it here. He's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
This
There's
is going to be
4
a
of
fun
it.
one.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a flurried finish here, or maybe just beginning.
So he gets the black mana.
He gets to draw 2 cards. He's also got 2 Caryatids up there that can give him black mana.
Right. I'm wondering if he can silence Owen's Courser and Farika now, if that's what he wants to do.
4 floating, I believe.
Wow. Silence the
4, 5,
Believers,
6,
one of
7.
the only ways to kill.
Yeah, he
A
can strive
god.
at once.
Owen doesn't have an instant speed way to take Farika off of creature mode, right?
No, he's F6.
All right. And away they go. So we mentioned chaining together spells. Well, that's exactly what Gul'dan did. He went
Good grief.
Blossoms into Silence the Believers, and even got an extra land drop out of the deal. And in he comes into the red zone. Now, remember, these creatures don't have lifelink anymore.
You know what, though, guys? I think Owen's going to have some haymakers on his turn to fire right back. This is going to be fun.
This is going to. So Owen's got Doomwake Giant and an Eidolon of Blossoms in hand.
That'll deal with the Eidolons.
Yep, and of course that Hornet Queen sitting on top of his library as well. Triggers Snake down.
And Wayfinder and Sage.
Yep. And he's going to get to kill both Eidolon of Blossoms here too?
Yep.
Wow, you weren't kidding, Ben. Huge haymakers here for Turtenwald. What is he getting back now?
Yeah, if this wasn't Worlds, I would play this deck even if I didn't think it was good.
No kidding.
It just looks like so much fun.
This looks sweet.
Yeah, the Eidolon that he whips back kills the 2 Caryatids.
It kills the 2 Caryatids, and he drew another Farika as well.
Yeah, Owen, that was a great turn, but you don't get to attack with him also.
I think he does get to only attack with the one that he whipped there.
Yep. Those 2, that turn sequence was insane.
This has just been brutal turns. It's like they pass a turn feeling like, finally, I've stabilized. And by the time it's their turn again, they have almost nothing.
And you know what's the most amazing part right now? This is game 2.
This is game 2. Mikhail Gul'dan up a game over Turtenwald.
Draws are not good for Team USA, for the record. They're much better for the Slovak Republic.
I was just about to ask you that, because of course Gul'dan doing nothing wrong. You see his pace of play has not changed even the slightest.
Yeah.
But he could concede to preserve time if a draw was really bad for him.
Right. No, the Slovaks control their own destiny. They need to win next. I mean, if they win, they win. They're in. If they lose or draw, then they need to win next round.
So a draw is basically a loss for them then.
Basically, there might be some backwards, like additional draw scenario I haven't thought of. I mean, barring another draw next round, I believe that's
So
correct.
someone tell him to concede so we can get to game 3.
So, yeah. So Owen just drew a Nykthos there
Oh boy.
and might be able to have another one of these really explosive turns.
Yeah, we talked about how good Owen's position was a couple of turns ago. Like, the best chance Gul'dan had was to chain those Blossoms. I don't know that he could have chained them better. Blossoms into second Blossoms into Strive on Silence the Believers.
Can't think of a
He
better
could have.
one.
He needed to find an answer to that whip off of the second Blossoms.
Yeah, okay.
Wow,
Okay.
and now he plays a second copy of Doomwake Giant.
And even though that's a lot of cards, if he did find the Reclamation Sage off that second Blossoms, he might have very well won this game.
And
That's
the Courser
fair. Yeah,
dies
the whip
now
was-
too, so the entire board state for Gulon is now gone.
Still got his Nykthos. Does that count?
No. All right. We mentioned it a few times ago that he's going to need some impressive draw steps
Yeah.
to get out of this mess.
No,
now
we're
are
done.
we finally out of options here for
Yeah, we're done.
Gulon?
This game is over.
Yeah, and he has
Next
a Jungle
turn,
Hollow on
presumably.
top of his library.
Which shouldn't be revealed, but yes.
I don't know why he's not conceding.
You have 9 minutes.
Because there's no way he can think that Owen's not going to be able to finish this game.
Also, the draw is better for the Slovaks than the Americans because if the teams wind up tied, the Slovaks have the tiebreaker,
okay. And
right?
does that
so
help the
they'll
Slovaks?
both be 101. If they do the same thing as the Americans next round, they beat the Americans. If they both lose, the Slovaks would get in anyway.
You see
if they
how
both
quickly
win,
Owen
then the
Turtenwald
Slovaks
is
would have
playing?
the higher seed.
You see how quickly Owen Turtenwald is playing, just jamming everything in the red zone continuously.
Yep.
He knows what a time crunch they're under. Look how fast Owen is moving here.
Yep.
They need to pick up the victory here to ensure their future.
So it's a tough spot for the Slovaks because a draw is better than a loss, but nowhere near as good as a win. Because
Exactly.
they do need a win to guaranteed advance.
All true.
All right, we'll be back right after these messages.
Have you ever dreamt of drafting the greatest hits of Magic? The all-new Legacy Cube is available on Magic Online until December 10th. Download Magic Online at www.mtgo.com and live the dream. You've watched the Pro Tour. How about playing on the Pro Tour? Qualifiers for Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir start December 13th, with winners earning an invitation and airfare to Brussels in April. Visit magic.wizards.com/PTQ for more information.
All right, back in the feature match area. Here at the World Magic Cup, the United States playing against the Slovak Republic, two of the heavy-hitting teams in the field at large. And we're playing a high-stakes match here that is going to be played very quickly. You're going to see the pace of play change a lot.
Yeah, no, both teams want to win this. The Slovaks clinch day 3 with a win here, and the Americans put themselves in great position. Neither team can be eliminated. Because the Russian Federation won the other match, and because the 1 seed Mexico is 0-2, the United States can make Sunday, even if they lose here, by winning next round against Russia.
A match where the Americans think they're underdogs.
Now, that's a great point. The Americans lost to Russia already in Unified Constructed, and they felt like it was 3 bad matchups.
Okay.
Dmitry Budakov and company await.
Yeah, if the U.S. does manage to win this, they can actually back into Sunday by losing to Russia, but having Mexico do them the favor of knocking off the Slovaks.
I love this pod play. We just don't get this kind of stuff normally. I also love it that you're in the booth with me, Randy, to explain it all, because it gets a little bit complicated.
Povedzte, že ja som mentálne retardovaný, normálne, že ja som není pro player.
A little bit of
Ja potrebujem rozmýšľať, ne?
strategic talk, perhaps, from the Slovak Republic team. And you see Owen Turtenwald. He doesn't look particularly patient. That's because the clock is running down. And if you look, you can see one of our judges, Gavin Dugan there of Canada, and he is he's intently watching the match. You know, we have
he
to
said
make sure
46 seconds.
Yeah, the players get a good shot at actually finishing a game of Magic. And as we've seen from this matchup, that can be very difficult to do in a short time period. There's a lot of big, swingy, sort of life gain draw cards and nobody doing a whole lot until the big hits start, which we saw for, 4 turns in a row. It was just massive swings.
Oh, jeez.
They're going to so it looks like Slovak Republic is going to take a mulligan, and Owen has kept.
Yeah, I don't think the draw is all that good for the Slovak Republic here.
I don't think it is either.
Well, we're talking about it. Gulon doesn't look like he moves particularly quickly, but he didn't do that the whole match.
Yeah.
And his pace of play didn't change one iota.
Agreed,
you know.
agreed.
I mean, that's not really on the table.
What?
I mean, there's been no.
Oh, no, but what I'm saying
Yeah.
is we're like, let's go, because we want to see a climax to this match. We want
Sure.
to see a winner. But in reality, Gulon, he's playing quickly. He's not shuffling particularly quickly, but that's just how his hands move and what he's been shuffling.
Yeah.
We've seen Owen get frantic because Owen's trying to play his absolute fastest here.
Yep. And you can see Owen Turtenwald. You can see just by the look on his face that he'd really He'd really like to see a deck presented here.
And what I'm trying
And it's hard not to feel that, right?
Right, what I'm trying to say is we're feeling that through Owen, but you can't expect Golden to move at Owen's speed. Golden is shuffling, playing very reasonably, just, you know,
Gotcha.
we have like two different, you know, kind of emotions here coming from, you know, Golden and Owen. You know, one is like frantic and one is like, okay, I'm going, you know what I mean? I'm going like as best as I normally can, you know?
Totally. And yes, he is very deliberate with his motions.
Owen's facial expression is great, though.
I mean, it's hard not to feel sympathy for him. Okay, we are underway here, though, in Game 3.
Top, go. At the end.
Lands for both players. And I wouldn't be shocked to hear, you know, some judge suggestions, just because of the fact that the team aspect means that oftentimes you'll look to your teammates and say, well, which land should I play? Well, you should probably play this one. And it starts to become apparent that you're not going to be able to finish the match in a reasonable amount of time. I don't know how the judges have to maneuver based on the fact that it's a team event, if there's a more leeway for that or not. That's kind of out of my pay grade as far as judging goes.
I mean, I just played Team GP Nashville.
Yeah, how did that go?
I mean, we had some issues with that. Chris Fennell, and Neil Reeves, all fast Magic players. But, you know, when three people are discussing a play, you know, time ticks.
Yes, it certainly does. So Owen Turtenwald fires off a Courser of Crewfix on his turn. Okay, there's about 3 minutes left in the round here, and that is going to make things very difficult as far as getting a match finished here.
Gulon is out of lands and only on green mana.
And here's a Courser to follow up.
Gain life, top, go.
And he's going to keep that on top after gaining a life. Pass the turn back. Gulon draws his card for the turn.
Another black card.
It is a feast of dreams, and he passes the turn.
Yeah, 6 black cards and nothing else.
Wow, remember, we have the 5-turn rule here as well. If Owen Turtenwald can put something big out on the battlefield, the USA might be able to steal a win here if Gulon can't find black mana, and very quickly. He finds it, but it's tapped.
Going to be a close one.
Wow. So Turtenwald has 5 of the mana symbols needed, of the 7 mana symbols needed to make Farika active as a god, and I think he's got.
Bones, take 2.
He's gonna read the bones into that Eidolon so that he can get an attack in for 7 right now.
Wow.
Draw a card.
This is amazing, just watching Owen
Look
execute.
at Owen go. It is unbelievable
Wow.
how fast he's playing here. He cracks in for 7. That's almost half of Gul'dan's life total. Now, things are going to change quickly here, though, because Gul'dan
Silence,
has
right?
black mana now. We're at 1 minute left in the match. That is not a second black mana source. He's going to have to settle for 1. But I think he's got a Doomwake Giant that he can play here.
Yeah, or yeah, no silence.
But that means that if he plays Doomwake Giant and Turtenwald has a removal spell of some sort,
He does.
that could be it.
And he
All right,
passed the
he's going to
turn.
pass up because he wants to use Feast of Dreams. So if Owen Turtenwald can play enough green or black mana symbols to keep Farika a creature, he could stay ahead on board here.
It's the first
30
time.
seconds left in the
It's
round.
the first time we've seen Owen think a thought in this match.
Yeah,
or in
he
this
actually
game.
has to here because he has to wonder what his opponent's up to.
Yeah.
Commune. So he finds at least 1 green mana symbol out of the deal, and it looks like 2.
This is interesting. He'll probably take Sage, but he might take Courser just for the mana symbol.
He wants to have the insurance where if one of his
Right.
creatures dies, it doesn't take Farika offline. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is time in the round. The judge will step in and will tell them that they're going to be in the 5-turn rules here.
3 attacks should be good enough for Owen Turtenwald.
Well, probably. McCall does have Feast immediately, but yeah, with the Farika.
With the Farika,
yeah.
right? And there's even more insurance for Owen Turtenwald in the form of Doomwake Giant. He draws a card off of Eidolon Blossoms, and in comes the team. So what can Feast of Dreams do here?
Not much.
Kill an Eidolon Blossoms to take 2 less damage?
Not much. Randy is spot on. I mean, this was quite an effort by Owen.
This is an insane effort by Owen, as he's still getting in for 7 damage, dropping Gulon down to 1.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we're touting him beating an opponent having mana problems, but for him
This is what had to happen, Ben.
right, and for him to make all of those
That
plays.
he did it! Owen Turtenwald defeats Mikhail Gulon in like 2 minutes in one of the grindiest matchups you can see.
That's what I was talking about. If Owen had played a little slower and thought a little bit more, he would not have had enough time to close out that match.
Number 1 player in the world, Owen Turtenwald, gets the job done for the United States. It's the stuff of legends. Unbelievable performance there and great action in the feature match area. That was insane. Randy, real quickly, where does that put the United States? Are they into the top 8 now?
No. They are in good shape if they beat the Russians. If they lose to the Russians, they can back in if Mexico upsets the Slovaks.
So
look, here's the problem. If the Slovaks win, they're 2-1, having lost to the U.S. If the Russians beat the U.S., they're 2-1. So's Team USA. If we have 3 2-1s and an 0-3, the 2-1 that misses is the U.S.
Because of previous...
Because they were the 4 seed coming in. They have the worst seeding. They can't let it go to tiebreakers. So if it's 3-0, 2-1, 1-2, 0-3, they're fine. If it's a pair of 2-1s and then a pair of 1-2s, they're fine. They just, they control their own destiny. There's a chance they could back in, but they have not clinched.
Wow. And so they've earned the right, though.
Yeah.
To play
they've
against
done
the
everything
Russian
they can do so
Federation
far.
and earn their own spot in the top 8. And then they've also put themselves in a position where they might get in anyway.
Yep.
That was insane, Ben.
That was exciting. I mean, given any amount of time, a great player like Owen is normally going to find the best play. But given no time, he has to just make whatever play, seems intuitively the best to him without ever thinking a thought. And watching him go like that, it was exciting.
It was really exciting. And like you said, look, things did have to go right. He needed his opponent to not have black mana for a couple turns in a row there. But those are the things that need to happen when you need a matchup like that within just a couple of turns. Let's head out of the feature match area. Tim Willoughby is standing there for an interview.
Thank you there, Marshall. I'm here with Owen Turtenwald, and that was one crazy match at the end there.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Now, I can see that you're probably sort of reeling a little bit from that one. I mean, how much does experience become a big part there, where it looked like you basically had no time to make any decisions to get that match completed?
Well, it didn't take a whole lot of experience to win that one because I was casting spells and he wasn't. I mean, he just had 2 forests in play and I'd cast 9, 10 spells before he even had a chance to get back in the game.
I mean, that match always looks like kind of a grindy one. You've got Whip of Erebos on both sides. I mean, did you know going into even that second game that time might have been a factor?
Oh yeah, I wanted to concede for a large part of the first game because he had Farika and Whip out before I did, but I figured there was like a 5 or 2% chance I could win, and I ended up drawing a Whip and a Farika, in which the board was a stalemate, and if I had drawn Doomwake Giant on my final turn, I could have crawled back into the game, but maybe I should have conceded. It's hard to tell.
Now, I don't want to make your life more difficult, but I've just found out the result from the other game in your group. It sounds like Mexico defeated Russia. So you're now going to be playing Russia in the final round. Sorry, Mexico lost to Russia in the final round. So you're going to have Russia as the final barrier to make it into this match. Now, how do you see that match going?
Well, we lost to them on day 1, so not great, but we'll see.
And that was in Constructed also?
Yes, it was.
So a little bit of time for revenge. I'm going to pass things back to the booth there. Thank you very much, Owen Turtenwald and Team USA.
Thank you very much for that, Tim Willoughby. You can see that Owen was like, okay, well, he didn't play any spells. I played a bunch of my spells, and that got the job done. At the heart of it, that's what happens. For now, let's go back to the news desk where Richard Hagan has tons of updates about what's been going on besides this intense match here in the feature match area.
All right, thanks so much to Marshall and the guys there in the feature match area. Now, yes, we do have lots of results and lots of permutations, but we also have players who are thickly involved in this competition who also want to talk to you and share the excitement of their Magic World Magic Cup here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you across to there. Now, we had the chance to have a translator come in earlier in the week to talk with a couple of the Japanese players, but someone who has decided to give English a whirl, one might say, is the captain of the South Korean national team, who have locked up the slot in the top 8. So we thank him very much for speaking to us in English. Let's see how this goes. Brian David Marshall is with the World Championship competitor, Nam Sung-wook.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you, Nam Sung-wook.
Thank you.
I know this is not this is your first time talking in English on camera.
Yes.
A little nervous. It was an incredible match we watched. Your teammate had just a prophetic flame speaker in play, a couple creatures, and he draws Dragon Mantle.
Yes.
Dragon Mantle, draw card, attack, and then the other player has to block.
Yeah.
He thinks, finally puts a couple creatures in the way, but Titan Strength, pump, 16 damage, and you guys qualify to play on Sunday.
Okay.
This is so exciting.
Yeah.
What does it mean for South Korea for you guys to be playing on Sunday and have a chance to win the World Magic Cup?
Yes. Korean always 1 or 2 proto competitors, so practice very difficult. But now, Junyoung Park, me, practice with mid team. Yes, that's okay. But other PTQ player and other competitors practice very alone is very difficult. Yeah.
So having a chance to play test with them was very good.
Yes. But this we can practice together is very important.
Yeah. So what's even better now? You said very few South Koreans qualified for the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Top 8 in World Magic Cup means everybody gets an invite to Pro Tour Fate Reforged. You were already qualified.
Yes.
But bringing everybody with you to the next Pro Tour, how big is that for you to have more South Koreans playing on the Pro Tour?
Yes. Well, I'm already qualified point Platinum Pro, but other people this is very important chance for Pro Magic player. Yes.
Okay, and then finally, I know there are a lot of South Korean fans at home watching this, rooting for you, cheering you guys on.
Yes.
Do you have a message for them? Just right to the camera, speak to them in your own language and tell them what you feel.
Yes, I want to visit in GP in Seoul. Korean is very yet GP competitive, but I want to GP 서울, yes. Okay. And 자 8강 갔어요. 한국말 아니 코리안에서 8강 제가 갈 줄 알았습니다. 네. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Good luck on Sunday. Give me another high five here.
Yeah.
We're going to send it back to the desk and Rich Hagon.
All right, thanks very much to Brian David Marshall. I've been joined by Nate Price. We've got more interviews coming up. Nate, I want to ask you about a match that was going on in Pool A. Now, Brazil defeated Uruguay, which puts Brazil to 1-1, Uruguay to 0-2. They still have chances, though, because number 1 seeds can sometimes sneak in a 1-2. But the other match in that group was England against Slovenia. Fabrizio Anteri, with his blue-black deck, lost very quickly. Then on the other side, it was reasonably quickly tied at 1-1. So what did that leave?
That left David Inglis and Robin Dolar from Slovenia battling it out in the middle. Inglis was playing an Obzon deck that tends to be a little bit slower, and he was matched up against Dolar, who was playing the blue-white control deck, which also plays really slow. So their match went actually incredibly long. I watched 2 complete matches before I finally made it over to them. And I was actually incredibly surprised when I walked past and looked at Dolar's board, and he had 3 copies of Prognostic Sphinx playing defense against 3 copies of monstrous Fleecemane Lions. And then I thought he was going to break it wide open with the 4th copy of Prognostic Sphinx. So he had 4 full Sphinxes in play and 3 monstrous Fleecemane Lions on the other side. But Inglis actually has put himself far enough ahead that his cats were able to overcome the half cats on the side of Dolar. And you should have heard him cheer. And I know he came back and saw you pretty soon after that, didn't he?
He was a very, very happy man. That means that England at 2-0, because they are a number 2 seed, are in the top 8. Congratulations, Forza Inglaterra. Great job. Well done to the boys. And with that thought, Over at the far side of the studio is none other than the captain of Team England. Here's Brian David Marshall with Fabrizio Anteri.
Thanks, Rich. Of course, I am here with Fabrizio Anteri. Got to feel great. You've had a lot of success on the Grand Prix circuit, but this is like your big final day breakthrough here.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't have ever guessed that it was going to be in a team event, that I was finally going to make it to a Pro Tour. It definitely feels great, especially because I lost my match in the last round, and then I was like, geez. And even worse, because I was the only one with a good matchup. I lost a good matchup, and then I was just rooting for my teammates, which both had a average or probably bad matchup, and actually they both won their matches. It was great for sure.
That's the joy and heartbreak of team competition, right?
Yeah.
You can win your match and your teammates can lose, but
Exactly.
you can lose your match and then they pull through for you. Talk to me about that, watching this match with 4 prognostic Sphinx from the blue-white deck staring down the Obzon deck. What was your emotional roller coaster like watching that match?
I was really afraid about Elspeth because he was eventually starting attacking in the air, and I knew Elspeth will just make the whole difference because he was going to have blockers every turn for the Lions. At some point we bring back some Lions with the Black Soul, and so I knew the Lions are really good in the match. Actually, he was asking me, because we have the Lions in the side, he was asking me, should I bring them in? And I'm thinking, let me think how they can resolve an Monstrous Lion was like, they don't have cars. I don't think they're prodigious ball. So I was like, yeah, bring the whole set of Lions in this match. So yeah, I saw the 4 Sphinx, but he was tapping. He first tapped one Sorcerer of White, tapping lands. He was like, he untapped the Sorcerer of White, so I knew, okay, it's the 4 Sphinx coming. The Sphinx is fine. We can survive the Sphinx. So yeah, and well, actually, there was a turn that I thought he got it. He got some cards in hand after scrying and drawing some cards. And David played an Honored Queen, and Robin just said resolve, and it was like, what? that was definitely the spell that also make the match.
So Sphinxes, Lions, but it was Wasps that were the final sting.
Yeah.
For Robin Dolar. Talk to me a little bit about what it means to you to be bringing. We had David in here yesterday for an interview, and he talked about how this was his PTQ.
Yeah, exactly.
So he won his PTQ. What is that? As the captain, bringing these guys along with you. What does it mean to getting them to the Pro Tour?
A lot. I haven't even think about that. I was really, really happy for David because I know he was the one talking about, I want to get qualified, and actually he got qualified by winning an epic Game 3, being the last match. So I'm really happy for him, and yeah, now we're all going to the Pro Tour. Probably this is another big chance because there are more qualified players for England in the Pro Tour, so probably this will help. There will be a biggest group, it's going to be modern, they're going to have a lot of time for testing. So maybe we'll see more English players or Italian living in England players doing well at the Pro Tour.
I've already talked to Rich about it. He's like, you guys are all English today.
Yeah.
He's so excited. It was very emotional watching David, who I know was really nervous about coming here and getting through. I mean, he was tears in his eyes.
Yeah, for sure. I can see the happiness. Yeah, he was super excited about that last game, and I know how much it means for him. I mean, there is no Pro Tour invitation for me because he already got it, but it means a lot, and I'm really happy for the whole team that we make it. And we still will work really hard tomorrow to see until what point we'll get.
How do you handle the last round? Do you guys play? Do you just take a handshake, go draft? What do you do?
For tomorrow, you mean?
Well, no, you have one more round here today.
Yeah, well, it doesn't mean much. We don't even have to, because I'm really close friend with Robin, so we don't even have to play and try to win so they can win. They're just going to kill each other against Brazil. So for us, we'll still focus and we'll still play because to get a higher seat on the tomorrow to the play and draw rule. So we'll still play, but we're definitely playing without the same stress that we played the whole day and yesterday.
Okay. Fabrizio, congratulations. Let you go out there and play your heart out. This is Brian David Marshall sending it back to the news desk.
Thanks very much to Brian David Marshall. He is going to join me right here at the news desk, and we will walk you through all the permutations in all 4 groups, and they are stunning. This pool play delivers in incredible fashion. Hi, BDM, welcome back. Shuffle on up. Well done.
Oh, no.
No, where's he gone? There he is.
There we go.
All right, so this is the way things look. Why don't we take a look at Pool A first of all? So if we take a look, this is Uruguay, England, Brazil, and Slovenia. Pool A right now has England at 2-0, and they are locked. So let's take a look. Here we go. So England, the number 2 seed in the group, cannot be overtaken by 2 teams. England are in. We know that at 0-2, Uruguay, well, they're about to play England. They could get to 1-2 by beating England. England would still be at 2-1. And then the winner of Brazil and Slovenia would also be at 2-1. And even if there was a draw for some reason in Brazil against Slovenia, one of those 2 teams would go above Uruguay's best possible 1-2. That means Uruguay is out, and the match between Brazil and Slovenia is a straight, Brian David Marshall, win and in for the top 8 of the World Magic Cup.
Right. So England, they were just talking about the idea that they would need to play this last round, but they're just going to be able to play for fun and for seeding here for tomorrow. And, you really see the difference between pool play and normal Swiss play here. Uruguay, which has been at the top of the standings throughout this tournament, would maybe still be alive in a normal Swiss event. But once again, they're going to fall outside of the top 8 in the top 16. That's where they finished last year. Great performance by them throughout, but a little short of the mark. And
sure.
Willie Adel, his tournament experience has to favor him here in this last round.
A massive, massive match for them. Let's go to Pool B, and this is full of incredible stuff as well, though it's actually pretty straightforward. Let us show you Pool B. This features Israel, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Greece. So, the last remaining Dream Chaser, that was Shahar Shenhar, the reigning world champion. He is back tomorrow to defend his title in the individual competition. But at 0-2, because of the way the pairings work, we have Israel out. South Korea, we know, are in, Brian.
Yeah, we just had Nam Sung-wook at the chairs talking, thanks to him. But the curse of the top seed here continues.
It's just been crazy. 0-2 for Israel. That means that the matchup between Hong Kong and Greece will deliver you your second team here. So Hong Kong and Greece are about to play for a place in the top 8. Socrates still going.
Yeah, and Li Shitian still going.
Right.
Just an incredible matchup, and really I don't know if that's going to be, it's got to be equal parts relief and agony for Shahar.
Sure. Let's go to Pool C. This time it's Mexico, the Slovak Republic, Russia, and the United States. Now hold on to yourselves, because you think, look at that great position. United States 2-0, which is true, and good on them, and what an amazing, amazing end that was. Russian Federation 1-1, Slovak Republic 1-1. The top seed Mexico are 0-2. Now, Mexico face the Slovak Republic. Let's imagine Mexico wins that one. They go to 1-2. The Slovak Republic would be at that point 1-2 as well, and then all good. United States in. But now let's imagine that the United States, who are playing the Russian Federation in this final round, if they lose, they will go to 2-1. The Russian Federation, by beating the United States, will be 2-1. If the Slovak Republic defeated Mexico, Slovak Republic would be 2-1. Mexico would complete the 0-3, and then you would have 3 2-1s, and the bottom seed of those 3 would be the United States, and they would be eliminated. So to be sure, they must beat the Russian Federation. And BDM, you've been around for a while. USSR, as it would have been back in the day, Russia, the Russian Federation.
Back in the USSR?
Right, back, exactly.
This is a terrible matchup for the United States. They've already lost playing in Team Unified Standard yesterday, and Owen said, this is not a good matchup, but they knew 3-0 was something that they might need to do here.
Okay, and finally, Pool D, let's take a very quick look. Let me set this up for you very swiftly. The players are just about ready. Netherlands, Serbia, Hungary, and Denmark.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Netherlands 0-2, but they are not out. This is another pool where you could have 3 teams on 1-2, with Denmark clear, beating Hungary to go to 3-0, and the others could all be 1-2, at which point Netherlands could make it in. All right, that's the pools. 5 rounds are done. There is one more round between us and the top 8 of a World Magic Cup. Who better to guide you there than our triple threat in the booth? Let's hand you down. First voice you'll hear, Marshall Sutcliffe.